Welcome to Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Not as happy today on the 4th of July. Happy birthday, United States of America, the greatest country in the world. Austin, you were at a great game last night, and it looked like, hey, the Dodgers walked off. They had the big walk-off on the game before, on the first game home against, my days get running. If you can't tell, my days start running together. On the big walk-off first game home against the D-backs, and then scored 4 in the first inning yesterday. It looked like everything was going to rock and roll, and then boom, didn't score again. And Arizona did a great job coming back and winning the game.
Yeah, first off, happy 4th of July to you. As you can see, both Casey and I in here, we're looking a little bit patriotic today. Casey with the blue, me with the red. Yeah, last night it looked like there was going to be fireworks early with this Dodgers offense that just exploded in the first inning for 4 runs. Things kind of melted away pretty quickly in this Arizona offense, which does have a lot of good players and a lot of players that just seem to absolutely destroy Dodgers pitching.
Christian Walker.
Oh, are you kidding me? Yeah, that guy, I don't want to see that guy playing against the Dodgers ever again. In fact, might as well just walk him every single time, because that's going to do less damage than what he has done against the Dodgers. He's been unbelievable against them. It was disappointing to see the results from last night. However, it is one of those games that just is going to happen through the course of 162. Really sucks, though, because of the explosive of offense, the excitement after the walk-off the day before, the early offense early, then just fell flat.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts on the All-Star stuff?
Not really. I'm not as big into the All-Star festivities as far as the guy. Obviously, I want the Dodgers to get as many representatives as they can, because I think a lot of these guys deserve it. So I'd love to see ShoheiOhtani get the starting bid in the All-Star game. I would love to see Teoscar Hernandez get there as well. Freddie Freeman, all these guys who absolutely deserve it. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. I'm more focused on trying to build a roster that's going to best win a World Series aside from the All-Star game. So we'll see what happens.
Me too. And that kind of brings me into the fact, I go all the way back to, Jock Peterson was the minor league player of the year last year that the Dodgers were in Albuquerque, and I believe they were still called the Dukes back then. I believe he's a minor league player of the year that year. Don't exactly quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. And he came out really hot as far as being, a great player early, and then he got in that dang home run contest. And hey, this is tinfoil hattish, and I'm probably completely incorrect on this, but it just seems like Jock Peterson has been a different hitter ever since he hit like 7,000 home runs in that home run contest. So I was so happy to see that Ohtani's not going to be in it. And I was even more happy that Dave Roberts came out very strongly and defended that hey, ShoheiOhtani, it's not his job to hold up all of Major League Baseball. That's not his job. So I was glad to see all that.
Yeah, he's focused on helping this team. He's focused on helping them win a World Series, which is exactly where you want the focus to be. Obviously, Home Run Derby, great event for Major League Baseball. I'm glad that they have it. And so you can say that it's a little bit disappointing that the best player in baseball, one of the best power hitters in baseball, isn't going to be there. He's got bigger things to focus on. And this Dodgers team has a lot bigger things that they're trying to focus on to try to win a World Series. I respect ShoheiOhtani and respect 100%. Whatever decision that he has. Sucks a little bit for Major League Baseball, but as a fan of this team, as a fan of the Dodgers, that's where I want his focus to be, and I think that's where his focus is right now.
Cry Me a River, man. You're going to have an event. Like, it is a good event, but I mean, hitting home runs in a home run derby contest is way different than trying to hit Major League Baseballs, which is what Ohtani has to do. And you're doing it right in the middle of the regular season. So, I mean, come on, man. And you're talking about a guy that is laser focused on winning a world title. He came to the Dodgers to win one. Cry me a river on that deal. I mean, Ohtani absolutely, not you, Austin, but I mean, I'm just talking about anybody that wants to complain about that. I mean, Ohtani absolutely made the correct decision. Of course, I'm probably being selfish as a Dodgers fan, but just the timing of it. And I'm a baseball purist that, Yeah, but
yeah, if they had some like they used to do in like the off season where they used to have the TV show, the Home Run Derby, where they'd have Al Kaline go up against Hank Aaron and do like a little home run derby. If they would do something like that during the off season to try to promote these guys or to try to reinvigorate baseball, I'd be all for that with Shohei Ohtani. I think that'd be something that he would enjoy, especially if they do something for charity. But during the regular season, his focus is different. This Dodgers team's focus is different. That's where that mentality has to stay.
Yeah, I agree. Christian Walker, 4 hits. All of them were on fastballs. 3 of them, he had 2 home runs. 3 of them were on 4 seams, and 1 of them was on the sinker. So with all the pitches that he sees from the Dodgers, it's very obvious. If you follow Perry Husband, he's helped a lot of guys. Carlos Pena would swear by him. He is the big. He's big on a bunch of different ways of having hitters hunt pitches, because he believes there's no way, as fast as these guys pitch and as much of the ball moves, there's no way that you can look outside, adjust inside, and do any kind of damage to that pitch. So you have to hunt pitches for different locations, different velocities, and it's obvious to me that Christian Walker, he hunts fastballs, and as soon as he gets one, doesn't matter where, he's going to be on it, and he doesn't miss. Well, I mean, like 15 home runs, I think I heard Eric Caro say last night, and a little over 60 at-bats at Dodger Stadium. It's just amazing what the Dodgers and just seeing that jersey brings out in him.
Yeah, it is. It is unbelievable. It's sickening, but it's unbelievable. You got to recognize the talent. You got to recognize his ability when he's able to do it. It was one of the most incredible things that you get to see against specifically this Dodgers team. Seems like such an anomaly, yet he continues to prove that it's not an anomaly, and he's going to go out there and hit another home run. So watch out. Make sure that you do everything that you can to just not give up extra bases to Christian Walker. If that means dancing around the zone a lot more, that's going to have to start to be a strategy for the Dodgers and Christian Walker, because otherwise he's going to hit an extra base hit, most likely a home run.
Lourdes Gurriel Jr., he was like one of our big outfield targets in the offseason. Had a good game last night. 2 hits. He's 268 on the year, OPS 731. That's okay. But he's 357 in his last 7 games, 345 in his last 15, 322 in his last 30. He was a good offseason free agent target. Of course, we all love Teo Hernandez. Yeah. Nobody would trade Teo for anybody, but
yeah, he's been on their team for a little bit, ended up re-signing with Arizona during the offseason. One of those guys, as far as this crop of outfield that was free agents last season. Dodgers ultimately went with, I believe, one of the, if not the top outfield guy on the market last season, Teoscar Hernandez, who they were able to just get on a 1-year deal, which great deal for the Dodgers, great deal for Teoscar. He's proved his more than above his worth. He's going to get a nice contract coming up pretty soon. For Lourdes Gurriel Jr., he's been part of this Arizona club. He's ingrained in that culture, that kind of gritty, that tough, that chaos-driven culture in Arizona. And he can do some damage as well. We saw it not just in the series against the Dodgers. We saw it a lot during the postseason as well. We saw it during that run that Arizona had. He can whack it too. He can hit it deep home run as he did. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., yeah, he's pretty good.
Okay, not a whole lot to chew on the game last night. You had the back-to-back home runs after the Will Smith walk, the Shohei Ohtani hit. You had the 4 spot in the first inning. Didn't score again. This offense, Austin, I mean, the numbers look good. I mean, you can look at the NL as far as the statistics and compare them to all the other teams, runs scored, home runs, walks. The Dodgers are at the top of all these categories, but it just doesn't seem right for some reason. Why am I saying that? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong if you go ahead and watch this team. I think it is unbalanced, to say the least. For especially at the top of the lineup, you have a lot of consistency, you have a lot of production. We've seen that over the past couple of days, not just over the past couple of days. The entire season, the top of the lineup has been producing for the most part. You have the Ohtani, you have the Will Smith, who has struggled a little bit as of recent, but still is a great hitter. You have the Teoscar Hernandez, Freddie Freeman, Andy Pages, all at the top. Andy Pages being a little more of that rookie, still trying to find exactly all of his role at the big league level. And then it's been a bit of a struggle for the bottom of the order, not just with their production, but also their ability to do stuff in situational hitting. Find ways to move the runner over to third base. Find ways to do those small little things that can help set up the guys at the top of the lineup. That's really all this bottom of the lineup has to do, is do those small little things, get some of those base hits, go ahead and draw some walks, be good in situational at-bats, have those good platoon splits. And we really haven't seen that, unfortunately, for a lot of guys that have been at the bottom of the lineup, not including Miguel Rojas, who has been outstanding this season, far beyond my and I think everyone's expectation of what he could or would have been. There's been a lot, and this brings up really tough conversations as far as the bottom of the lineup, because you have a lot of investment into a lot of these guys. You have guys that have been highly thought of in the past or have ingrained themselves into the Dodgers culture that haven't produced. Now, Dodgers are still expecting Mookie Betts and Max Muncy to come back, which will certainly help, because two of those spots towards the bottom of the lineup will become impact type players.
Good point.
But you still have to be concerned about this Dodgers offense, because if there is a struggle to get back into the rhythm for either Mookie Betts or a Max Muncy, you have concern, especially if pitchers in the postseason are able to work around some of the top guys, able to limit some of the damage, and needing some of these guys at the bottom of the lineup to step up. Who do you trust to be able to step up in what situation? You're like, no, I feel good about this guy versus a right-handed pitcher or a left-handed pitcher. I don't know what to say to that. And this is
just being real, man. Just being real.
It's a bit of a struggle right now for the Dodgers. It's a bit of a struggle for the bottom of the lineup, and this is something that they're going to have to figure out.
Yeah, I totally agree. So this is a little bit of a rant on my part. That's okay. I do it from time to time. And I won't get all ranty today, but Andy Pages is a right fielder. Nobody will ever be able to convince me of that. I have seen this guy play all the way back going to Ogden. You can go watch interviews that I've done with managers that have coached him. They would say he's a right fielder. So you talk about some of the production from guys like Jason Hayward, Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, all the guys that might be sharing outfield spots. Is what they're giving the Dodgers, does that justify forcing Andy Pages to play center field instead of right field, of which he would be, instead of being just maybe an okay center fielder, he would be, in my opinion, a way above average right fielder?
So that brings up a really interesting question, because I think where the Dodgers are at right now with the roster as currently constructed, I'm not including guys that are down at the minor league level. So I'm not including a guy like a James Outman, who certainly is a much better defensive outfielder than a Andy Pages is. I'm just including the guys at the major league roster. I don't know if there is much better options that the Dodgers have in center field than an Andy Pages. Are you going to put a Kike Hernandez or a Chris Taylor out there in center field consistently, or perhaps a Jason Hayward? I think Jason Hayward possibly could play center field at least a little bit. I just don't know if there's a whole lot of options that the Dodgers are working with right now. And I think
what's the difference? What's the difference between platooning right field and platooning center field? Why not just move Andy Pages to right field and do whatever you're doing with right field right now in center field?
Because I think the defense in center field is incredibly important. You talk a lot about with the baseball field.
But is Pages a better defender than either one of those two in center field?
In center field, I would believe so, yes.
Then Kike or Hayward?
Yes.
Or Chris Taylor?
Maybe not a Jason Hayward. That would be an interesting conversation.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
And Chris Taylor, I think he's a better defensive center fielder than both of those guys would be out there. Not saying that Andy Pages has been great defensively in center field. I think if you want to maximize his defensive value, absolutely, it's in right field. But I think he's filling a hole right now for them in center field, and I think he's playing good enough to keep them in games, and especially with his offensive production at bat. I think this is a situation that the Dodgers have to, or are putting themselves in. They have to address.
They've got to get Andy Pages to right field is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think you're saying it's not going to be this year. I can't disagree with you on that. And and especially with the way their roster is constructed, unless they go get somebody or bring James Outman back up. But I just think they need to figure out in their whole grand scheme of things, Andy Pages needs to be their starting right fielder.
Okay, so this brings up a little bit of an interesting conversation because especially with this Dodgers team, as far as who they're going to target, different guys during the trade deadline, who they want to target. When you're looking out there for a trade target, do you think it's more of an importance for the Dodgers to go after somebody that's perhaps a little bit better defensively in center field, so then you can move Andy Pages to right field?
You already have that in Outman. You already have that in Outman. If you want to go defense, you bring Outman back up, and you just say, hey, James, whatever you give us offensively as a bonus, go out there and go pick it in center field. You already have that guy.
So most of the guys that are going to be out there as far as bats very likely are going to be corner outfielders. If you want to go out there and get some type of bat, are you okay with Andy Pages being in center field for the rest of the season, being one of those guys that can play there, perhaps platooning a little bit with a Jason Hayward occasionally, although Andy Pages getting vast majority of the at-bats, Jason Hayward being a good bench off the bat?
No, Pages would not platoon. He would be the everyday right fielder, and then whoever's platooning would be in center field.
What I'm saying is if you have to go out there and get a corner outfielder.
I got you.
Teoscar Hernandez and a starting outfield in the corner. It has to be center field, has to be the place where Andy Pages is. And perhaps Jason Hayward comes in occasionally, perhaps late in the game against a right-handed pitcher off the bench, because that is where Jason Hayward excels, and that's where the Dodgers almost exclusively utilize him.
It's tough. It's complicated, man.
Is that what you're okay with, is doing that? Because honestly, as far as guys in the infield, there really is not a whole lot of option as far as guys. It's going to have to be an outfielder. So with the Dodgers right now, I know there's Andy Pages. I believe his future is going to be in right field. Right now, I want Andy Pages, and this might be a little bit of a hot take, I want Andy Pages to get every single chance in center field. Because I think if the Dodgers want to upgrade their bats, if they want to get a bat that's going to really make an impact
this year or for
team, the
foreseeable future.
It depends on who the Dodgers go out and target. It could be a guy that just is on full contract for this season, or it could be a guy that's on contract for multiple seasons with having the caveat of this could be a backup plan in case we're not able to sign Teoscar Hernandez. I think that could be a guy that the Dodgers go out and target, in which case you're going to want Andy Pages to get as many reps.
Let's assume they're going to sign Teoscar Hernandez, because I think that would be a massive upset if they didn't.
Yes, I think that would be a massive upset, and if they didn't, in which case I think you would be dealing with a little bit, depending on who you get, a little bit of a downgrade defensively and the outfield for the upside offensive potential of having three guys who could be impact bats in the outfield. So right now I want Andy Pages to get as many reps as he can in center field, because I think that is what the option is for the Dodgers, and I don't think that they right now need to look for a guy who's going to be pretty good defensively and the outfield. Right now, I think you need guys that are going to help this lineup, help lengthen it out to try to make this team as good as possible.
All great points. Let me continue the tough conversation here. Kike 206. We talked about Hayward, Taylor 162, Biggio 197, Lux 217. Let me put you on the hot seat here. First of all, will Gavin Lux be the starting second baseman by the time the playoffs roll around? Then we'll get into the other guys.
At this point, the way that he's playing, no.
Yeah.
And this is unfortunate, but I believe
it is what it is, man. It's the merit system.
It absolutely is the merit system. Right now, if let's assume that Mookie Betts comes back healthy, it's going to be Miggy Rowe at shortstop, Mookie Betts at second base. That's what it's going to be. And unless they make some sort of trade to address something in the infield, or unless Gavin Lux becomes an absolute superstar type level of player, we have 3 months of data that points to him, at least during this season. Not saying that he can't be a good hitter in the future, but during this season, he has been a below average hitter, and the Dodgers are looking for ways to make this team as airtight as possible. Miggy Rojas has absolutely earned everything that he's gotten and has earned to be the shortstop of this team. Give him a little bit of rest and make sure that he stays healthy. He can fulfill that role. But I believe that is going to be what it is, and I think that gives the Dodgers the best opportunity to win the World Series. So it is what it is. I don't believe right now mind could change. But as of right now, Gavin Lux is in the playoff starting second baseman.
And that's based on the merit system, correct?
Yes.
So let's continue with the merit system. Kike, because these are legacy guys. Kike, Chris Taylor, and then Gavin Biggio is not a legacy guy at all. Are they worth the – now you say, oh, they don't cost that whole lot. Of course, Chris Taylor does. But even, even with guys that come in and they don't cost a whole lot, people say, oh, it's worth it. Well, I say it all the time. The Dodgers don't care about the money. The cost is in opportunities for Ryan Ward, who leads the PCL in home runs, for Andre Lipsius, who is first, I believe, in the PCL in RBIs and second in home runs. The opportunity cost is for Cody Hosey, who finally is healthy again, has been the best defensive infielder in the minor league system for a long time now, hitting over 300. His OPS looks good as well. He's wearing out both left center to right center field gap. For Drew Avens, for Hunter Fiducia, for all these guys, I'm probably missing a couple as well. On the merit system, it's Kike Hernandez, Chris Taylor, Gavin Biggio, and we talked about Lux a minute ago. Are they worth the opportunity cost of those guys in Oklahoma City not getting a shot?
Turns out money is a pretty penny, and for the Dodgers, that seems to be with the way that they have approached this. Look, just going based off of their performances, do you think they're approaching it?
Are they using the money as a crux to kind of look at it through a legacy standpoint, though?
I think part of it is a legacy standpoint. Part of it is a financial standpoint. Part of it is they don't want to start the clock or go ahead and get rid of these guys in the system. I'm not saying that is the correct choice in any of these situations at all, because if you look at some of the numbers, you look at Kike Hernandez, 69 WRC plus, has been good in filling in roles and plugging in holes. But do you expect that guy to come up and be a big time postseason type of hitter? I think oftentimes we look at these guys for what they have done, for the big playoff moments that they have, the Chris Taylor hitting the home run to walk it off, or getting the nostalgic base hit, the Kike Hernandez getting some really good moments in the postseason. I'm less concerned about that, and I want these guys to do good in the future. And I'm more looking at what they have done, what they can do going forward in 2024. The Dodgers seem to have a lot of approach, and this is because they've tried to build up a culture that has been successful for them. And they have done a really good job getting a good mix of players that are feisty, that are competitive, that the city loves. Sometimes the Dodgers hold on to these guys far too long, far past the productive value of what they've been able to achieve. And even if you don't believe that the guys coming up in this farm system are going to produce, the guys that have been around here that haven't been able to produce, at least this season, aren't getting the job done right now. So this is bringing up some really tough conversations.
What do you have to lose? As far as, kind of my point.
as far as guys that are on this roster, Gavin Biggio, I'm not really concerned about him. I think right now he's filling in a void until Max Muncy comes back. I don't get why they are still holding on to that train.
Throw Miguel Vargas in that conversation. As far as opportunity cost.
Yes. Okay, so that's a whole another separate conversation. We'll get to that in just a minute.
It's part of it, though.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to that in just a minute. Gavin Biggio, as far as him, Dodgers aren't attached to him. I don't believe that he has produced really at all defensively, offensively.
Then make a business decision and bring somebody else in. I mean, I don't understand that.
It depends. So let me explain exactly where the mindset could be with that. So, Max Muncy, as far as when he is going to be coming back, if it's going to be as soon as just after the All-Star break, which we're talking maybe 2 weeks, I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know if it's going to be another month and a half, whatever that's going to be, depending on what that time frame type is. Looking at the 40-man roster, is it something where, let's say that you call up an Andre Lipsius, you're going to go ahead and be your third baseman for the next 2 weeks? I think it would be great. I think Andre Lipsius would absolutely kill for that opportunity, because he's not getting the opportunity.
$4,500 a day. Hell yeah, he'd kill for that opportunity.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he would. He would absolutely kill for that opportunity to be part of that. I think what the Dodgers are doing, and I think this is a not merit-based system. I think this is more of a selfish, we want to keep guys within the org type of system, is trying to figure out how to put guys onto their 40-man roster, and then once Max Muncy gets off of the 60-day IL, is it going to be something where you would have to designate an Andre Lipsius for assignment right after he gets called back up just because of the 40-man roster constraints? I don't know exactly what that situation would be for the Dodgers with that. Cavan Biggio, I don't believe they're attached with him. He will not be on this playoff roster if any level of production.
Then why is he on the roster right now? Why isn't Andre Lipsius on the roster instead?
As I just stated, they might have some 40-man roster constraints because Max Muncy currently isn't on the 40-man roster. He's on the 60-day injured list. So let's say that you replace Cavan Biggio with an Andre Lipsius right now. Max Muncy would have to take somebody's shoes from the 40-man roster. I don't know if the math works out to where the organization would have to get rid of an Andre Lipsius, designate him for assignment if that was the case. That's not saying that that is the correct decision. That's not saying that they couldn't find somebody else to designate for assignment if that were the case. But that is something that the organization selfishly, not thinking out for the players, thinking out for themselves, is dealing with right now. Cavan Biggio is one of those major league type players, those fringe type players that they don't mind designating for assignment later. Now, I think that is holding Andre Lipsius back, and I think you're not achieving like it is doing. Although Under Fiducia is on the 40-man roster, he hasn't made his major league debut. Yeah, he's not just not receiving any major league type of deal because of Austin Barnes, another legacy type figure. No, because of Austin Wynns last year when they went and got Austin Wynns. Yep, that is true.
That was my complaint with it. Austin Barnes, great. Yeah. But don't go get Austin Wynns and keep Hunter Fiducia from ever having a major league career just because you're afraid you have to DFA Hunter Fiducia, who, by the way, you obviously don't have plans to ever make him a major leaguer. Yeah. I mean, what is your plan there with a guy like that?
Yeah. Yeah, and that is something that the Dodgers they have
Why
to
go
know.
Get Andre Lipsius and make him a great player and then not use him whenever you actually need him? Why? I mean, Absolutely. Why would you even go get him to begin with if you're not going to use him after he's done a great job, done everything he's supposed to, and then there's actually opportunity for him? Why even acquire that guy? That's my point.
That I totally agree with that point. Yeah. Absolutely agree with that point. I believe that Andre Lipsius not only has earned, but absolutely deserves that opportunity with the Dodgers. It's something you and I have been talking about for weeks now, ever since Max Muncy has went down with the injury. Why isn't he getting that opportunity? Why isn't a guy like a Ryan Ward, who just hit another home run, it's up to 21, 22 home runs in the Pacific Coast League? He's right towards the top of the leaderboard there. Why isn't he getting an opportunity in the outfield? These guys at the minor league level are doing a lot of things to earn it. They're pushing the needle for a lot of these guys. The Dodgers have a mentality to go with these veteran, these legacy type hitters, these legacy type players, or guys that can just help fill in the shoes till guys get injured back. Selfishly, from an organizational type standpoint, I get the sense just from the Dodgers perspective, not from the player perspective or what's going to be best for them, but wanting to keep a bunch of talent within the organization, which is what they are trying to do. Of course. Yet you're going to waste away that talent if you never give them an opportunity or present the opportunity to achieve or be best of themselves. I think that's one of the reasons. I know there's been a lot of talk about all over the place about the Dodgers supposedly not being able to develop hitters within their system. This is one of the reasons why, because you have a vast amount of veteran type players. You have limited opportunities for these guys to come up and actually become the type of players that they can be. You speak of a Miguel Vargas. There's no way he's going to become the best type of player that he can be if he's sitting 5 days on the bench in Los Angeles. And
or if
not
you send a guy down after 36 games. Yes, I mean, I know Outman was struggling mightily. I have no, but I mean, if that's all the runway you get after putting up a 4 WAR and being a
top 5 to 10 center fielder in the game of baseball last year.
Yeah, man, if you only get 36 games, I mean, there's no rookie that can handle, there's no veteran that can handle that type of runway. You press too much. That's why you don't get hitters. Because you don't bring up a Ryan Ward, you don't bring up a guy like Drew Avens, who has hit all the way up. You don't bring up Andre Lipsius. You don't get Leo. It's not because they don't develop hitters. It's because they don't give their hitters the right runway and the right opportunity, which, it is. It's a philosophical difference. It's not throwing shade on anybody. It's just a conversation to be had.
Yeah, and that's not saying that all of these guys will be superstars when they come up. They're not all going to be. We're realistic. Not every single one of these guys is going to be that superstar big league type players, but the opportunity to adapt, opportunity to adjust just isn't there because the Dodgers have such high expectations and because they seem to go with a lot of these guys that have a long history of being able to prove it at the major league level. And they're willing to give those guys a long runway to be able to adapt. Chris Taylor has been hitting a little bit better as of late because of his contract, and because of that, I fully anticipate him to continue to stay on the roster. And similar to a Kike Hernandez, I could see a very good scenario of him staying on this roster because he's done a lot of stuff in the past. Does his merit, does what he's done offensively, which he's been 31% below league average, deserve that merit? I don't believe so. But I believe that is something that the Dodgers are going to continue down that track with him. So then that brings up tough conversations as far as, okay, where could there be upgrades? Where could you fill in some additional guys? Let's assume that Max Muncy takes Kevin Biggio's spot. Okay, there's one. And then Mookie Betts takes the spot of, let's just say that it's Gavin Lux, because he's going to be playing probably second base for the most part, or wherever the Dodgers need. Then you have a Miguel Vargas who is just sitting on the bench right now. I think that is something where Dodgers are going to have to find some sort of upgrade, because I would take an upgrade right now over a bench sitting Miguel Vargas. Not to say Miguel Vargas does deserve to sit on the bench. He does not. He deserves to get as many opportunities as he can to prove himself, to go out there and be the best big league player that he can. But he's not given that opportunity right now, whether that's to uphold his trade value, whether that is to work on his outfield defense. I honestly don't get it at this point, and I'm sick of him wasting away his potential on the bench. I want to see him go out there and be the Miguel Vargas that I know that he can be.
Hey, man, this has been a great show. We did not even get into our Gavin Stone talk, who, by the way, just had one of those nights, and this is what I'll say about Gavin Stone. We've talked about how his subtle movement to his sinker, of course, he was heavy four-seam last night, how his sinker and his cutter, those subtle movements beat those big swings. Well, and the vice versa, when you have an offensive team that's scrappy, like the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they're contact-oriented, those subtle late movements, they don't work against those kind of hitters. So it's just it sets up to be a very difficult matchup for Gavin Stone last night, and his four-seam fastball got hit quite a bit, and just the contact-oriented, let the ball get deep, and just think line drive mentality of the Arizona Diamondbacks really gave him fits.
Yeah, these type of nights are going to happen. Gavin Stone, subtle movement, but it has been so incredibly effective for teams. Just seemed to be a little bit off last night, and the Diamondbacks were able to take advantage of his stuff, able to take advantage of opportunities. Some of these types of nights, especially if you're not having the explosive strikeout 20 batters per game, there's going to be some nights where batted balls just fall into place, where you're going to give up some of those contacts. I still believe in Gavin Stone.
Absolutely.
I think he's 100%. Going to be a great
I think
pitcher.
It was matchup based.
Yes. Yeah.
And then a little bit of execution,
yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think Gavin Stone is a very effective pitcher, and I fully anticipate and expect him to play an important role in a postseason type setting. I expect him to start playoff games for the Dodgers this season.
Yep. A little bit of matchup, a little bit of execution, a little bit of, hey, it's just baseball. I think that's not a real in-depth analysis of Gavin Stone's outing last night, but to be honest with you, last night's game didn't really deserve a whole lot of analysis to begin with. So, hey, Austin, that was a fun conversation. So I told you I was going to go a little bit of rant. I hope I kept my temper well enough to where it wasn't annoying to people out there listening. So, hey, that was a lot of fun, though. But are you ready to take a trip down the farm?
Absolutely.
Welcome to the Down on the Farm segment here. Austin Brubaker back with me, yourself, Casey Porter. Hey, Austin, you got to see just a great game. I mean, lots of drama, big crowd, great relief pitching, good hitting, timely hitting, early hitting, late hitting. You got to see a great game last night with Great Lakes.
Oh, it was absolutely great. Yes, I was in Comstock Park, Michigan, the home of the West Michigan Whitecaps, which before we get started, I got to give a shout out to the people over there of West Michigan. Just so welcoming, the staff that they have there, the people that I was able to sit around with. Shout out to Kevin and the guys in the jerseys sitting right over by the Loons dugout. I know Elian Herrera, one of the bench coaches on the staff with the Loons, really loves interacting with them because they're great individuals. Just a lot of great people over there. And it was a big game for the Loons and the Whitecaps. Right now, West Michigan is at the front of the Midwest League East standings in the second half. Great opportunity this week, and the last time the Loons are going to be playing against the Whitecaps this season during the 6-game series, for them to go and gain some ground on West Michigan and try to close some of that gap while they have the opportunity to do so. So going into the game, it was a big series for them. Won the first one, dropped the second one. So it was in the weird 3 home at West Michigan, 3 home in Midland, Michigan. It was one of those deciding West Michigan game series. So both of the teams were fired up to be there. And you get to see.
It was a great game.
Oh, it was just a great game. But let's go ahead and start off with the performance last night that I got to see for the first time in a Great Lakes uniform, which he did have one start in Lake County. Wasn't at that game.
Slider.
Patrick Koppen getting out there on the mound for Great Lakes and really setting the tone for this team. Went out there, pitched 4 2/3 innings during the game yesterday. Had his stuff just dancing. Has a lot of movement that moves away, particularly from right-handed hitters, which is with this West Michigan team that has a lot of right-handed hitters. Was able to move away from them. Did give up some base hits. Did give up some walks. This West Michigan team is a feisty bunch. They like to make that contact. They like to steal bases. They like to do the small little things that just grind your teeth. But Patrick Koppen then went up there and battled. He was able to get strikeouts in big moments. He was able to strand bases, even when guys, Seth Stevenson, who is unbelievable at stealing bases, and the coaching staff will tell you he's probably one of their least favorite players to coach around for West Michigan. Even when he was doing chaotic stuff, Patrick Koppen was still able to limit the damage. He was able to only allow 2 earned runs. Did leave with the bases loaded. And I know he didn't get that final out in the 5th inning. Kelvin Bautista came in, was able to shut the door. And what was a really good, positive, gritty outing for Patrick Koppen. Stuff danced, stuff moved out of the zone. His fastball, I believe, got up. I think I saw the scoreboard once, which I don't trust really the scoreboard,
especially the road ones.
Gun, but it got up. I saw one at least that was 95. I don't know what he sat or what he normally sits at or how effective that is, but his stuff was really effective, and he has got a lot of interesting movement that moves away from right-handed hitters that was playing pretty well last night.
Okay, and then we had Michael Ramirez come in relief. And I'll tell you what, you mentioned Kelvin Bautista. He was really, really good when he first came in, and he did a good job for the most part. But then I'll tell you what, man, when Michael Ramirez came in, and I think I messaged you almost immediately, this guy right here, this guy's badass. I mean, he is just totally bad. Just the way he hides the ball, the way he drops the ball, you don't see it, and then it just comes out of like a slingshot, and then it's like it's coming out 1,000 miles an hour, right? I love watching Michael Martinez pitch. And if you don't know his name, he's like Edgardo Enriquez. He's like Jack Dreyer was last year. He's like all these guys. He's been injured, and then he comes back, and now he's just trying to make his way back. This is another guy that's in the Ronaldo Yin, Edgardo Enriquez. Not quite the velo, but that Juan Murillo was in that situation last year. Not quite the velo, but I'm just telling you, this guy is really good.
Yeah, Michael Martinez, what can you say about him with what he's been able to do? Started off slow this season because he was coming back from injury. He hadn't pitched and for this team since, I believe, 2021. Missing 2 entire seasons, a little bit rusty, walked a lot of guys early this season. Ever since the beginning of May, though, it's been absolutely lights out for him. ERA around 1 in that time frame. And last night, when you got to the Whitecaps came back, they ended up scoring 3 runs, 2 earned off of Kelvin Bautista, even though a couple of those weird bounce to Jake Geloff that could have been a double play ball to get rid of that run early.
Geloff was playing third base last night, right?
Yeah, Geloff has been playing third base for a lot this season, which is weird because he always makes those types of plays. And same with Noah Miller, who just let a ground ball go right between his legs.
It happens.
With Michael Martinez, he came out there in an environment where it was a 1-run game, gets the first 2 guys off. Then you have Seth Stevenson, who, as I mentioned previously, is just a menace for West Michigan, gets on base, and he's already he had 3 stolen bases last night, already has 40 stolen bases on the season. Wild throw to first base. He ends up going to second, which that was going to happen probably anyway. Goes up there and gets the strikeout to the next batter, to Max Anderson, who had 2 hits on the night in a big moment for a Michael Martinez, who was absolutely fired up when he got that strikeout.
No doubt.
It was fun to watch, and his stuff has been playing up so well. Oh, the crowd was absolutely unbelievable. You're talking about 7,500 people in Grand Rapids, Michigan on the 4th of July up there. Great crowd up there. So you had Michael Martinez go out there, hold the line for the Loons, and then you bring up the next guy who has been as rock solid for this team this entire season, has been one of the big late inning type of relievers for the Loons. Kelvin Ramirez. You have Kelvin Bautista, left-hander, Kelvin Ramirez, right-hander, and his stuff when he goes in, almost every single time he's going to go out there and put a scoreless outing.
This is the 9th inning, by the way. 1-run game, bottom of the 9th inning, in front of a packed crowd.
In front of a packed crowd against the first place team. Yeah. When you're trying to find your way, find your footing. The Loons entering this game were 4-6. They're finding their way into the second half after having a tough series against the great Lake County team. Kelvin Ramirez went out there, dominated, went down 3-0 to the first batter, which if you walk the first batter in front of that crowd, that smells so much trouble, especially for this team that likes to steal a lot of bases, that likes to do the little things well, get to the ground ball, advance runners, do bunts. Came back from 3-0, 2 straight strikes, then gets the strikeout to get Josh Crouch out, goes up against the next hitter, big international signing for the Tigers, Roberto Campos, gets the strikeout there again, goes up early, makes it a full count, gets the pitch, hits the exact location, great. Then you get to the final batter, Luke Gold, who has a ton of power. First pitch that Kelvin Ramirez throws, center cut fastball. Luke Gold gets a great swing on it. It's going way deep. It's like, oh crap, the game is tied. Chris Newell catches it at the winning track. Ball game over. Kelvin Ramirez delivered. Great to see. He's got a ton of movement, a ton of stuff. Great way to cap off what was a great, exciting game.
It sure was. Noah Miller also had a great game on the offensive side. And, hey, this is a guy, I think you describe him just as solid. I mean, he's a good defender, solid offensive player. I think if you overall had to describe him in one word, I think it would be solid.
Yes, he is rock solid out there. He's not going to have the explosive power at the plate. He did have a couple of home runs in the series in Wisconsin where he was in front of his home crowd, home family out there. He was really excited about that series. But it's a lot of those singles. It's a lot of those doubles. It's the pretty good walk percentage, low strikeout percentage type of player that plays as rock solid defensively as I've seen, barring that one error that he had last night that went through his legs. It happens. He's been as rock solid defensively as I've seen at this level. He's just a really solid ball player that's going to go out there and do a lot of the little things well and go help your team, give your team a nice floor to win games. Noah Miller has been great. And then there's a couple of other offensive performances that were well. Yeah, I got to mention Kyle Nevin, who had a couple of hits for them. Had a big.
Hey, before you get started, let me ask you a tough question. Kyle Nevin, he's great at staying inside the baseball. He has a fairly decent flat swing. It seems like he picks the ball up very well. Right there, it looks like he tracks the ball very well. Why does he have such a high strikeout ratio? You've seen him a lot. What would be your reason for that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. His strikeout percentage is a little bit high. I think that has to do. I attribute that a lot to. There's a lot of situations too where he gets down 0-2 really quickly. He's a little bit passive, you could say, similar to some of the conversations that last year you would talk to Taylor Young or Dalton Rushing. They would let some of the first couple of pitches go by, be a little bit, just wait to see what the pitcher has to throw with them, perhaps being a little bit passive. I think you're seeing that with a little bit with a Kyle Nevin, except you're seeing him go down 0-2 really quickly, in which case, if he's down in that hole, there are some holes in his game right now. Not saying that
up in the zone, the fastball
up in the zone.
That makes sense, because if you get down the count like that, you're going to see a lot of high fastballs if they have 2 strikes on you, because that's the strike 3 pitch. That's a swing and miss pitch for them. That makes all sense. Yeah,
absolutely. Whereas you see a guy like a Noah Miller who will take a lot of swings early in the zone, or has worked on trying to be aggressive early in count. With a guy like a Kyle Nevin, it's a little bit more of a let's make this guy work a little bit, but that has ended in a lot of 0-2 counts. I don't have the exact metrics just because they're not. I don't know how to get those metrics.
And a lot of high fastballs.
But he gets down in the count quite a bit just from looking at it. But that doesn't mean that he hasn't been effective. Last night had the opposite field base hit, RBI to score a run. Also had a double as well, his 12th of the season. He's been really good in those types of situations. And as we've mentioned in the past, still has that world of power that can just pop in his bat. I think if he puts himself in the best situations, he can really tap into that power. But speaking of power, we had a big time home run last night to give
Sam Mongelli
a 4-run lead, 4-0 lead. Sam Mongelli. Look who's back from being off of the injured list briefly for Great Lakes. This is one of their infield type guys, can play a little bit of second base, has been there a lot primarily, can also play some third base, maybe occasionally in the outfield, or he was in just an emergency situation at shortstop. Great athlete. And there's just a lot of pop that hasn't always showcased in his swing. Last night, it showcased. And as we saw...
he came from Sacred Heart, so it's going to be an adjustment getting used to professional pitching on a day.
Absolutely.
At Sacred Heart, you're going to see good pitchers, but then you're going to see like one really good pitcher and then like 4 really mid pitchers.
Yes.
But, in professional baseball, it's every stinking day. That's the adjustment you have to make whenever you're coming from anywhere, but especially a place like Sacred Heart. So give him a minute, right?
Yeah, no, that is absolutely right. So he was able to go out there and... his home run last night down the left field line, just an absolute nuke, just a bomb that he went out there. He was pumped up. He was excited to get that feel back, to get that swing back after being out for a couple of weeks. Not as fired up as he was during that game-tying 3-run home run at home against Beloit earlier this season. Still super excited about that. And then just rolling through a couple more guys offensively. Jake Geloff had 2 hits. Got to give a shout-out to him as well. Also had an RBI. Frank Rodriguez, who is on the team, F-Rod, had an extra base hit. He had a double. Also played a great game catching behind the plate. Made some really tough stops to avoid some wild pitches late in that game. F-Rod's doing a really good job. Then we got to see another base hit early in the game by Josue De Paula. I know a lot of fans were like, oh, why is he coming out early in this game? My guess is that had to do with defensive substitution. There was no indication that he was injured at all or any sort of worry, nor he was with the team lining up, giving high fives. He was giving high fives. So as far as all of the, what's happening to Josue De Paula, I was sitting right next to him. He's just fine.
Yeah. Hey, a couple of side notes. Sam Mongelli was immediately one of my favorites because he owns a pit bull, and so that's obviously going to be like a favorite of mine. And then F-Rod was on the dev list for the longest time to begin this year, and he spent that time at least from what I saw, all in Oklahoma City. And so I actually had the chance to talk to F-Rod many different times in Oklahoma City as he was catching bullpens before the game started or whatever they asked him to do. So, hey, super nice guy.
Oh,
hey,
he's just the absolute nicest guy in the world.
He is, man. He absolutely is. All those international players are. So we kind of jumped around because you were at the game last night in Michigan. But so let's go back down to the single A level. Hey, Wyatt Crowell. Wyatt Crowell out of FSU, Florida State, finally back. Watch this slider, man. Right there. Woo! That is a nice pitch left-handed. I have talked to several different people, and of course I followed him quite a bit when he was at Florida State because Florida State is such a wonderful baseball program. Reminds me a lot of kind of the Lyle Lockhart Jr. deal, but with the slider that is just as devastating as that pitch is. That's a really nice pitch. So it's good to see him get back on the bump and be as effective as he has been. Matter of fact, last night he went 3 1/3 innings, so the question is going to be for him, how far can he get stretched? We've seen that in the minor league system this year, trying to get those starters prepared to go 6 innings at a time. I love that adjustment in the organization. Went 3 1/3 last night, and his first 3 outs, check this out. This is what I liked about this. You talk about a guy that has swing and miss, but then he also forces the hitters to either hit weak contact or ground balls. First 3 outs last night, Austin, were all ground outs. His next 2 outs were strikeouts. Then he got 2 pop-ups, and then the last 3 outs were strikeouts. So there is no damage to be done. You're a statistician. Yeah. When those are the outs you're getting, the other team is not going to score runs.
No, those are outcomes that are ripe for success. And a guy like Wyatt has been absolutely successful this season during his limited appearances where he's just getting ramped up back from injury. ERA of 1, FIP of 249, expected FIP 293. He's striking out 38% of hitters right now in the California League. He's just going out there during his limited opportunities. He's being effective. He's striking guys out. And when he's not striking guys out, he's, as you had mentioned, weak contact.
Yeah.
The ability for the hitters to be able to be productive off of this guy, so incredibly limited because of what he's able to do with the attack that he's able to go after these guys. I think he's one of those sneaky finds from last year's draft that, man, it took a little bit of time, but I think the Dodgers' patience is going to just breed a great pitcher for them. Wyatt Crowell, absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, Luke Fox is in that boat too, out of Duke, who has just recently made his way back, a left-hander who's very good. Hey, let's move up now to the Double-A level. This is Chris Campos, and you got to see him quite a bit last year. I'm telling you, man, he did work on his slider in the offseason, and the way he manipulates it, they call it a shorter slider or a cutter or whatever. The way he manipulates his slider pitch and then locates its four-seam fastball off of the way he manipulates that slider pitch and does it all while being really pinpointed in terms of his location. And then between him and Dalton Rushing, for a pure baseball purist, they're like 3 pitches ahead of the hitters at all times. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, this is just high-level sequencing, it's high-level execution, and it's high-level IQ in terms of what pitches to throw and being a step ahead or 3 of the hitter. Put Chris Campos, just put him in the back of your mind as far as the mentality, the size, just the drive. Will remind you a lot of Gavin Stone. The arsenal's not necessarily exactly the same, but he kind of gives off those vibes. But super impressed with just the skill of Chris Campos.
Yeah, the skill is what you mentioned. The execution, he only has a 5.3 walk percentage with this system, which likes a lot of those guys with the high strikeouts, the sometimes wild stuff. Chris Campos isn't fitting into that mold, yet he still is able to generate a 27% strikeout percentage on the season between combined Great Lakes and now Tulsa. I'm so happy with what he's been able to do. It's elite IQ. It's being able to be effective. All of his stuff is moving, the sequencing, being able to use that to strike guys out, using that to get weaker contact. During the season combined a 250 ERA, a 342 FIP, a 326 expected FIP. He's been one of the better pitchers in this entire system this season, which is so great to see for a guy that I was expecting to see him practically all of the season in Great Lakes.
Me too.
He has earned that promotion to the AA level, earned that promotion to Tulsa, and he's been effective when he's been up there pitching for the Tulsa Drillers. Love to see it for Chris Campos.
Hey, another guy that is finally back, and they moved him to the pen towards the end of last year. Got to see him live from however far away this is, and he was very impressive. That four seam obviously is very good, but what was really good about Ronin Cop was his slider. Of course, It gives off the Madison Bumgarner vibes as far as the way he looks, kind of his windup and all that. But the guy that I think he reminds me the most of with the way that he throws his slider and just kind of his mechanics and his motion is Andrew Heaney, who I got to see quite a bit at Oklahoma State. And then with the Dodgers, that's kind of who I comp him to. And by the way, that's a very good comp because Andrew Heaney has been a really nice pitcher for a long time. And then also imagine Andrew Heaney in the pen, where Andrew Heaney could really play up his four seam, and you would have an even more explosive type pitcher at that point. So Ronin Cop, it was good to see him have a really nice slider working last night, and he paired that with also his big fastball. And what I liked is that he attacked both sides of the plate. He was very good with doing that. And then he also had the swing and miss at the top of the zone. So I'll tell you what, Ronin Cop, sometimes he's a guy that can also wear his emotions on his sleeves. Last night he looked cool. He looked calm. He looked very, very confident and totally in control. So it just kind of felt like Ronin Cop was all the way back last night.
Yes, and that is great to see, because when you have that guy that is all the way back, we saw all of last season just how dominant and effective that he was, particularly when he got moved to the bullpen. Even when he was starting, he was still dominant. He was effective. I think we're starting to see more and more of that Ronin Cop that was part of that 2023 Great Lakes team start to come back. Last night was an indicator that things are starting to turn around. I think we're going to see more and more of that keep going for Ronin Cop, who still has all the world of potential. Over the past month has actually been decently and pretty productive as well. Dating back to June 12th, has a 3.24 ERA with a 3.10 FIP, striking out, big time strikeout guy. If he can limit those walks quite a bit because his stuff is so dominant, he can be so effective, so dominant. Don't give up on a Ronin Cop quite yet. I know the big picture numbers haven't been pretty so far. He's going to get on the roll. He's going to figure things out. He's still incredibly young for his level. He's going to work things out, and he's going to be a great pitcher. I have all the confidence in the world in Ronin Cop.
He's been Casparius. He's working on the process. He's working on refining all the things that could make him better as a pitcher, and sometimes the results don't look good because you're throwing against professional pitchers and trying new things and new mixes and all that. But to his credit, he's like, hey, whatever I need to do, let's do it. And then you go and you pitch more and more and more. Then all of a sudden your stuff starts looking good, and you have a couple of maybe a dink hits that make your result. And then all of a sudden one day your results start matching up with your process, just like they did with Ben Casparius. Mark my words, that's what's going to happen with Ronin Cop. Let's move up to the AAA level. River Ryan, woohoo, 99, baby, with the shoulder soreness at the beginning of the year. That 99 compared with that slider, and then obviously his curveball, that slider there, and his curveball he likes to throw just to kind of steal some strikes, and his changeup, 99 for River Ryan, baby.
Oh, yeah. His stuff was explosive. It was electric. The fastball, high-intensity velo. The slider was absolutely great as well. I was looking. I know there's some people that do work on doing some stuff plus stuff, and there were some numbers on River Ryan and his stuff plus, and it was just elite type of stuff that he has. A 112 stuff plus on his slider. He's so incredibly dominant and effective, and I think he's going to do a lot of great things going forward and really help this Dodgers team in a big way. He's getting back. He's getting healthy, striking guys out, and just so dominant.
This year? You think he'll make the 26 this year?
I don't know if it will be this year. Perhaps you see a Kyle Hurt situation where it's hey, we have to add this guy to the 40-man roster. Might as well do it late in the season. Give him just one couple outings, maybe if you're trying to limit some of the innings for some of the guys on the staff. But with a River Ryan, he's going to be a Dodger pretty soon rather than later.
Okay, James Outman, I want to show you him. He hit a home run last night, which we know he can hit home runs in the PCL. But what I really want you to take notice, and let me back this up, just watch how sweet this swing is. This is nice and under control. So you're looking for process more than you are necessarily results at AAA level. Look how sweet that swing is. I mean, that is a nice, pretty, under control swing. It looks like a swing that James Outman is in total control of. It looks simple. And for all of those factors, it looks like a swing that he could duplicate. That's the big deal. Watch here from the side. Very nice, easy load, very nice, smooth, sweet swing. So I wanted to show you that sweet swing of James Outman, and then also Ryan Ward hit home run number 22. But the next guy that I wanted to finish up with as far as our AAA segment today, and it's kind of an interesting story, and I'm super proud of this guy for many, many different reasons. If I can get to his video, this is Matt Gage. Okay, Matt Gage at the beginning of the year, he was in the Caleb Ferguson trade, and he was on the 40-man. Well, then, actually, he was on the 26-man. Then he got optioned. Then he got DFA'd. And so then he got taken off the 40-man. And I'm sure you know how those conversations go. He could have become a free agent. He decided to stay. I'm sure he had some promises. Hey, we'll get you back on the 40-man. I don't have any information on that. But I would have to think that Gage staying in the system, he's from New York. So, I mean, he's not like he grew up anywhere as close to L.A. So I would think that he probably had some kind of assurances that at some point he would get put back on the 40-man. Hadn't been put back on the 40-man. The clock turns to July. So he just says, hey, man, I opt out. You know, I'm going to opt out of my contract here. So the Dodgers said, well, I'll tell you what. We're just going to go ahead and select your contract and put you back on the 40-man. So congratulations to Matt Gage for sticking up for himself and saying, you know what, I'm good enough to be on the 40-man. I'm wasting time here with no opportunities as far as if you're not even going to give me a look on that. So got put back on the 40-man and had his first outing back last night and looked very, very good. He actually went scoreless. So that's a really cool story for Matt Gage.
Yeah, that's a really cool story. Good to see these guys step up from themselves and try to fight for those opportunities. And for a guy like Matt Gage, who has been effective for this team so far this season at the AAA level for the Oklahoma City Baseball Club, 2.66 ERA, FIP right at around 4, but he's striking out 31.5% of hitters. He leads the Oklahoma City Baseball Club in swinging strike percentage for those with 20-plus inning pitches.
Wow.
He's doing out there and being really effective, and he's one of those guys who could help this Dodgers team if he's given the opportunity. So for this guy fighting for his career, part of a trade for the Dodgers, I think he could very well be part of one of these Dodgers teams coming up pretty soon as far as coming up for a little bit. And if he stays as effective as he has been at the AAA level, perhaps we see a little bit more of a run time for a guy like a Matt Gage, who good for him stepping up for himself and being part of the system.
Absolutely. And he is just an absolutely awesome dude, too. Hey, we're back on. We're live here, Austin, so final thoughts.
Oh, it's been a great show today. I know
it has been fun.
The segment as far as talking about the Dodgers did not win last night. Sucks, obviously. But it also brings up some good, important conversations to be had about this team. Last night was a fun night. Comstock Park, Michigan. I know Midland, Michigan is excited. They get their first 4th of July game in at least a decade, if not more.
Really? Wow.
So it's been a long time since they've had this. I believe from what I've seen, it's going to be a sellout crowd for them. So great for them. It is the 4th of July. I just am so grateful to be able to do this and just be able to talk a lot about Dodgers baseball. It is just something I'm so grateful about. And going forward, we'll see this Dodgers team, I believe, continue to have success. And when this month of July, we talked a lot about fireworks, the 4th of July. I think there's going to be some fireworks, not just with the Dodgers, their offense, and them hopefully winning some games, but there's going to be some fireworks as far as potential moves that could be had for this Dodgers team, because it is an incomplete, imperfect team, yet they're going to try to do everything they can to make it as best as they possibly can.
All right, Austin, you killed it today. This has been a lot of fun. So I want to thank you for joining. I want to thank everybody else for tuning in and helping Dodgers Daily grow. Hey, share this video out. We've been hitting our mark most of the time. We're trying to get all of these videos to 1,000 views every day. We're getting really close, either to the target or over the target or really close. So I want to thank everybody so much who tunes into these shows. You guys are just absolutely awesome, and gals out there. So, hey, for that, I want to thank you again. And until next time, until we see you next time, go Dodgers.